Senator Brown, I'd like to.
Senator Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A dozen years ago, when you did the tax holiday here, all the corporations had all this money, and of course, they were going to be eager to give it out to work. Well, actually, they didn't give it out to workers. They did stock buybacks, they did executive compensation, they paid out dividends.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 49. This was the iniquity of thy sister Sodom, pride, fullness of bread, and abundance of idleness was in her and in her daughters. Neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and the needy. The corporations were raking in the dough, causing the people to become poor and needy, and neglected them after creating them, and thus fell Sodom. Government cannot be in the business of allowing corporations to run the government. The people must be the ones who benefit financially. If you're going to have a people supporting you in your leadership, supporting your company, you cannot neglect the poor. We're putting that clip in the beginning. Until Hatch says, I was born among the poor. Because Senator Brown starts off talking about tinkle-down economics from Reagan. Hatch v. Brown. Okay, now I should remember. As that bill would go on to expose the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It was for the church. Obviously. Senator Hatch, I mean, hello? What do you think he's there for? It ain't for Utah. $32 billion, huh? Where'd you get him from again? Oh, a major city yet to be determined, still to this day in Russia? Whatever. Whatever. Tinkle-down economics. Travis, no, it's trickle-down. Yeah, whatever. You're the one being peed on. Pee on the British thing. Poor people. I shouldn't have to explain jokes. And Reagan's tinkle-down economic plan was to fund federally corporations. I don't see Trump stopping that program. The one federal funded program still not being stopped. The tariffs are going after the lesser corporations. And the idea is that by funding corporations, these corporations would bless the lives of not just their employees, down to the lowly janitor who keeps the place clean, or the mechanics keeping the place running, but also show a profit benefit for the customers, the people of the nation. That the companies would make better quality products and they would be cheaper and affordable for the average citizen who receives a certain wage across the board. But instead, these corporations hoarded the money and then would invest the money into the stock market and offshore bank accounts. And they raised the costs of their products by lowering the quality of their products, and screwed over their employees by lowering the wage gap as such. Because by raising the cost of living but keeping the wage increase minimal, it increases the living wage to income gap, creating poverty, creating economic hard times for the people. But those in power have learned from history that if you want to suppress and oppress a people, you have to not cross the line. Because the biggest of nations fell because of that Bible claim, neglecting the poor. Les Miserables likewise illustrated that point. You also have Thomas More with Utopia, or Drew Barrymore in Ever After. Oh, yeah. In which a government poorly educates the people, and thus the people go on being ill-educated, and then the government punishes the people for their ill education. It's the same thing for the economy with tinkle-down economics. By causing the creation of greater poverty among the populace, you then punish the people for what you turn them into. every nation fell because they crossed the line in the excessive number of impoverished citizens. And oftentimes, it seems that what triggered the people into an open rebellion of civil war to destroy the government was the government or soldiers taking the innocent life of a woman. Leave women alone. Rule number 1, don't kill the hot chick. Hollywood needs to learn that lesson. So when the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was confronted by the women of the church who were demanding change under the leadership of Kate Kelly of Ordained Women, the church knew better than to cross that line and make Kate Kelly a martyr with her death. She was too well known. Not like a certain other person who was not well known, and they tried to murder him. Don't worry, they failed. I'm sure you were all worried for him. I'm sure you were wanting to cause a rebellion on his behalf. I mean, granted, the housing market tanked and collapsed Greece's economy in retaliation. But nonetheless, the church would go on to lose 10 million members. But the church only publicly humiliated her with a public display of excommunication for apostasy and creating a rebellion against the one and only true Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We're supposed to be Jewish. See, Kate Kelly did not know the origins of Relief Society as well as she thought she did. She did not know church history as well as she thought she did. She did not know her scriptures as well as she thought she did. And then she turned, didn't she become, let's check. Don't want to boo-boo on this. She's identified as an activist, but see, the church is homophobic. And so for her, if she came out as queer or lesbian, the church would have just been frothing at the mouth. And so she's a feminazi. Abortion access. Yep, queer, 2019. In a same-sex relationship with a Catholic writer pushing for similar goals within the Catholic Church. Wikipedia is having troubles with pictures since last night. Interesting. Somebody has hacked Wikipedia. Fascinating. I was going over the Egyptian sign list, or not sign list, the King's List. And King's List stone was not showing up. They were having technical difficulties. Am I being cyber attacked, or is this a Wikipedia problem? I don't know. I don't know. And so, yeah, the ordained women were just suppressed, oppressed, depressed, repressed, yet again, going into the underground of Mormonism, and yet still continuing to go to church and paying their tithing or getting prostituted by their husbands. If they weren't independent, free-thinking women getting a career to prostitute their husbands or their sexual partners under the Obama administration. But 2019, that was well underway in Trump, wasn't it? And after Nelson took over, so Nelson was in charge of that. Or was it Oaks? Was it Oaks? You're getting Nelson blamed for what you're doing, Oaks. Do not exalt yourself beyond your keys. I know it's very tempting right now. Nelson's on his deathbed. Right, Nelson? In 2018? And so thus the church did not fall, because the church did not create a martyr. And so, yes, time and time again, John DeLynn, Jeremy Runnels become popular for those who rebel against the church, because the church didn't murder them. As the church continues to exist and continues to exhibit their ultimate power over mankind. Whereas if they were to have one of them murdered, then that is likely to have been a trigger, more so for Kate Kelly than for the guys. Nobody cares about a guy dying. No. Guy from 2008, nobody cared about him. Literally, nobody cared about him. Even his own family wanted him dead. Firstborn, birthright blessing son, and they wanted him dead. Oh, you want us to lie about him? Okay, I've got a whole bunch of lies for you. That won't be necessary. Oh, no, I insist. We're not planning on taking him to court. That's okay, I'll still provide it for you. He had quadruple bypass surgery, and he's not dead yet. And then, oh dear God, his brother ordered by the church to attack him, and he failed, obviously, and was financially ruined by the church. Good job. Good job, Todd. Good job. And so this is what we're waiting for in the United States of America. This is a Trump ICE 2025 video, in case you are unaware. Over the weekend, Trump has made it very clear that he is destroying the federal government and going to destroy the economy to have the states run their state independently as a sovereign nation. Destroying the federal government, destroying the economy. And yet, despite the rising rebellion of the masses of the citizenry, Trump apparently still hasn't crossed that line to trigger the Civil War yet. Over the weekend, he again threatened to go full force with tariffs on April 2nd. he threatened other tariffs. To be on the lookout, signifying to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who are the major stock investors, that he's going to target Big Pharma, so that those at Enzyme Peak Advisors and the other LLC corporations of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that we don't know about because we didn't have a whistleblower for them are all getting prepared, as they did on Friday, and again will start today unless Trump backs down. But because Trump doubled down over the weekend, I'm pretty sure the stock markets around the world greatly rewarded the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as they will today, tomorrow, and Tuesday especially. This will hurt the lesser corporations, because the lesser corporations needed to expand their businesses by creating headquarters in every nation that they wanted to sell in, rather than get involved in trade with the other countries. Because these tariffs that Trump is doing are banning other nations' goods from entering into our country, and those other countries in return are banning American companies from selling in their country. And so the companies in America are going to greatly suffer, and thus the tanking of the stock markets. Only those businesses that were wise enough to protect themselves from such a potential threat by a president would create a headquarters in every single nation where they want to sell, rather than commencing trade from America. And so Tesla, for example, instead of having a Southern California headquarters, if he wants to sell in foreign countries, he needs to build a headquarters and a manufacturing plant in every nation in Europe and China and wherever, rather than commence trade negotiations to ship American products to those other countries. See the difference? See, the church they get themselves in trouble because they too only have their headquarters here in Salt Lake City. They don't have a foreign headquarters for the various countries. And as a result, Australia, when the press found out that the church was violating tax laws in Australia by exposing that they were using offshore bank accounts, this is where the problem was, is that Australian law required that the church have a headquarters in Australia, that the church in Australia is for the Australian people and the Australian people alone. But instead, because headquarters is here in Salt Lake City, it violated Australian tax law, even though they're a religion. But don't worry, Razband was sent to quell the rebellion and threaten the government to let them go. And they immediately did. So, these kinds of things are toppling governments, toppling economies around the world. And so every single state, in order to counter what Trump is doing, and it's too late now, as they knew it was coming. All they had to do was read Project 2025, and they would have known exactly what Trump was up to. All they needed to do was listen to him in his rallies, and they would know what he's up to and be planned and prepared for it. Nope. And so what's going to happen in Utah, for example, is you're going to have Governor Cox losing businesses that just can't financially survive because the Utah population isn't enough to keep them running, as they'll initially begin laying people off, raising their prices, but eventually it will become unsustainable and they'll have to close down. There are some businesses already in Utah that are closing down because of this. They are unable to survive Trump's tariffs, Trump's destruction of the federal government and the economy of America. And so what Trump is demanding that each state do in this transition phase is have the big corporations in every single state, so that there isn't trade with other nations and there isn't trade with other states, because each state is supposed to be an independent sovereign nation. Now, if the states want to make a trade compact after Trump destroys the federal government, that's another thing. But in the interim, this is what Trump is demanding. And you should have seen this coming, because this is the way Trump ran his Trump Towers. Wherever he wanted to make money, he put a Trump Tower. That's why the Panama thing, he wants Panama's Trump Tower back. He's backed off on that one, apparently. Not really pushing that one as late. But for Russia, yeah, he was all about doing anything Putin wanted in order to get a Trump Tower in Russia. I don't know if that's still his plan, or if he's decided that it ain't gonna happen, that, you know, like Nelson, he ain't getting a temple in Russia. Putin uses people. Thank you for the money. I'll go and attack Ukraine now. And this is, that triggered a Biden failure. Under President Biden, he betrayed America. He knew what he had to do to restore America from Trump's first term, as Oaks revealed that Biden was under the church's control too. He failed to stop the insurrection, to invoke the Insurrection Act against those in government who couped America, attempted to coup, and thus led to Trump running for office for 2024. He's not allowed to. Constitution, Section 14th Amendment, Section 3, denies any insurrectionist from holding government office and running for government office. Any. And yet, they stayed in office and ran for office, and now are in charge of the government. That was a major betrayal of Biden's. Under Biden, he allowed SCOTUS to destroy the Constitution. Thus, women's rights are gone under Biden. He did nothing to step in as president and say, no, This is an insurrection of the Supreme Court. You cannot decide a ruling against the Constitution and then remove them from office. Problem solved instantly. Nope. He let it happen. And he then told you to let your voice be heard in the vote. How well did that go? And then, among the other disasters that he allowed to happen, because the church, through MAGA, extorted Hunter Biden against him to fail to do the duties of his office. Well, the debate was first, actually. Oh, what a humiliating, disgraceful debate. We conquered Medicaid. Where's Twinkie and Stay Puft? Where am I, Mother? Oh my God. He was unfit to be president. It was blatantly obvious, and the whole world saw it. And then Harris to not step up and do anything, but just demand popularity. She would have gotten more votes and support of the people if she had, as vice president, stepped in and took over as president to do what Biden failed to do. She too failed America. Former prosecutor, and she failed to prosecute. But there was Biden signing the Social Security bill that deceived Americans who receive Social Security, as Social Security is again under attack, and they're gonna completely destroy it, to allow states to determine how to handle the poor. And we found out that instead of getting $1,000 back a month for the full previous year, so, 13,000 or 12,000, I wrote 13 because they were going to count January. When it was all said and done and signed, everybody then found out it ain't for Americans. It's only for former federal employees. That was the final betrayal of Biden. America needed that money. And he just deflated Americans with that betrayal. There was a YouTube former IRS agent or Social Security agent who does videos to help people understand the changes in Social Security and how to navigate Social Security and stuff like that. He, too, was caught up in thinking that the bill was going to be for all Americans on Social Security and covered that. And then after it happened, he had to break the bad news to his audience. So under Trump, In the beginning, Trump floated the idea of giving $5,000 to the American people. Fox News was all over that. Yeah, $5,000, we're going to give $5,000. Yay, Trump. Trump is awesome. Trump is great. Better than eating chocolate cake. We don't want to talk about that because that was from a guy who went to prison and is now dead. No more pudding pops either. No more pudding pops. Ruined for everybody. And that's gone now. We're not getting $5,000. Now with Social Security under attack, they're doing it again. Musk came out and said, hey, those who are left getting Social Security might see an increase. People don't understand that Musk is not financially suffering when you bomb and destroy his Tesla vehicles. You're hurting the owners of the vehicles who now have to either pay for another one, or you have financially ruined them now because that was the one thing that they cannot afford to repurchase. You are not fighting the right fight if you're attacking Musk. When people are emotionally upset, they don't tend to make rational decisions. And this is why civil wars and riots get started in the first place. And that's why when you trigger the emotions of people, which is often an innocent woman getting murdered, that's what escalates things out of control. That the government can no longer rein the people in, no matter how many military they send in to quell the rebellion. But that's all Trump had to do during this time. This week, for example, with April 2nd issuing tariffs, he should have given the American people at least $1,000 to pacify them. He's not. That was the one thing he could have done to prevent an open rebellion in the coming day. And he didn't do it. He did it under the first term, provided people with money. And he's not doing it this time. And it's because this is it, whereas 2020 was just a test run for the church. I mean, second coming of Jesus. Where is Jesus? Elijah was there. He burnt the altar that was all wet. Where was Jesus? Where's Jesus? Where is he? Search for Jesus. Everybody's looking high and low for Jesus. They can't find him. They can't find him. He didn't show. So, this is why rebellions are forming in America and increasing. In Utah, because Utah have now signed the bill. Cox refused to sign it, so it became the law. On pride flags, not allowed. And I can understand, it's not a symbol of a United States. It's not a symbol of something inspiring. All of the pride flags are about what kind of sex they have. They're porn flags, especially in the eyes of homophobic Utah leadership and Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Apparently, those involved with LGBTQ are unaware that Utah is trying to ban all forms of porn, and thus why they banned pride flags. And so, in open rebellion, which I would have loved to have seen that with the porn, a porn riot. Instead, it's a trans riot. A person made the world record-breaking size of a pride flag. I'm sure the Guinness Book of World Records will be there to put it in the books. Are they still around? Do they still do that? But yeah, it made national news as well. That the Utah trans are rebelling against the Utah government. You don't understand. They did it for the church, guys. You're ignoring the causation. And so, yeah, you're not seeing the bigger picture of how the church is trying to get their kingdom back. You're fighting diversionary tactics while the church maintains control over the situation. I mean, do you not watch these kinds of action shows where the enemy causes diversions, or the good guys create a diversion to divert the enemy away, and thus they win the day? This is what the church is doing. This is war strategy that the church is doing to get their kingdom back. They are overthrowing governments and economies to get their kingdom back. Do not be diverted because of your personal little agenda. There's a bigger picture going on, and you are getting led astray. And so, yeah, this created a rebellion. And if it were Governor Herbert still in charge, he would have declared you guys terrorists and sent in the military to quell your rebellion, like he did for Black Lives Matter protesting. But Governor Cox, yeah, he's a softie. Direct descendant of the Danite, but still a softie. You know, he'll do whatever the church tells him to do, but dear God, a sensitive snowflake. He is definitely a yes man with no ability to lead. So, yeah, we're waiting for the trigger that will set off the Civil War. Which state will do it? What incident will cause it? Will it be Social Security getting cut? Because it's doubtful it'll be the auto industry. But you do understand that with the tariffs on automobiles, it's going to raise the price of cars, it's going to raise the price of gasoline, it's going to raise the price of maintenance and oil changes and all that stuff. And then people kind of need their car to get to work to pay for the car, as well as other stuff. And when they lose that, it's a downward slide into poverty and homelessness. So heads up, people. It's going to be a wild Mr. Toad's ride.